Welcome to another video today. My name is Chris, and boy, these activist investors just do not give up on Macy's. They have an unhealthy obsession, and it's just very awful. These shareholders, they have an unhealthy obsession over trying to get Macy's back on the, or rather, try to make them more profitable, or I don't know. But we'll read the article. So once again, these shareholders' activisms, they must really look up to Eddie Lampert because they actually applaud how Eddie Lampert was able to sell off the real estate of the department stores and try to subdivide them just to squeeze out as much money as possible out of these department stores. I mean, these shareholders must really, I mean, they must really love what Eddie Lampert did with Sears, and they must really love what Hudson's Bay Company is doing right now with the real estate locations of Lord and Taylor. I mean, they just love that. They love seeing the stores subdivided and all that money. But anyways, so yeah, so we have another activist firm is taking on. So activist investor Barrington Capital revealed Monday it has a position in Macy's and wants the company to cut spending, exploring the selling of its luxury brands, and take a hard look at its real estate portfolio. This is now the fourth time the activist has pushed for the struggling department store in the latest decade. Macy's shares rose roughly 3% on the news. In pre-market trading, the activist partnered with a private equity firm, Thor Equities, in its push, according to a Barrington presentation. The two investors did not disclose the size of its stake. The activist said it believes Macy's can trim back its inventory and sales and administrative costs. According to a slide deck that the firm provided, Barrington said in the presentation that while the business continues to generate cash, management has chosen to spend nearly $10 billion on capital expenditures while neglecting buybacks and dividends. Macy's shares have underperformed in the S&P 500 and Retail Selects Index over the last 10 years. In a statement Monday, Macy's says it stood by its plans to close struggling namesake stores and invest in stronger parts of the business. We remain confident in the bold new chapter. Macy said in a statement, we look forward to engaging with our shareholders, including Barrington and Thor. And this show goes on about that. Barrington wants Macy's to beef up its shares buybacks and consider selling off its Blue Mercury and Bloomingdale's brands. Barrington, like many other activists, has proceeded, also believes that Macy should take a fresh look at so anywhere from $5 billion. Barrington values it anywhere from $5 billion to $9 billion. Again, let's take a page from Eddie Lampert's playbook of how he destroyed Sears and milked on the real estate of the stores. Barrington said that Macy's should create a separate subsidy in which it can charge rent into Macy's parent company while the subsidiary's management assessed how to maximize the value from those assets. AKA, once again, boy, do these shareholder activists just love what Eddie Lampert did with the Sears stores? Because that's what this article is telling me right now from CNBC. But as you can see, they don't point that out, obviously, because Eddie Lampert himself has a lot of money, and a lot of shareholder activists look up to Eddie Lampert. They think that Eddie Lampert is a god, and that's really awful to say because look at what Eddie Lampert did with Sears and Kmart. And there's a couple of other examples we'll go over as well. Barrington pointed to a smaller department store operator, Dillard's, where it is also criticized management as example effective capital allocation. Dillard's has the market cap to $7 billion, and it says it operates more than 273 stores in the United States. Macy's has become again the activist target again, namesake. In its most recent quarter, which ended November 2, Macy's said that the company's shares fell 2.4% to $7.4 billion, comparable to the sales it owed in licensed business. Plus, its online marketplace dropped by 1.3%. Macy's postponed releasing. Yeah, this was pretty bad too. This definitely doesn't help, and I'm sure that's why the activists they're smelling blood because an employee had hit up $104 million in delivery expenses on its accounting books for 3 years. The results will be available on Wednesday. So yeah, but boy, these shareholder activists, I don't know. I don't know really what to say. I think it's an unhealthy obsession, and I think too they're trying to take inspiration from what Eddie Lampert has done with Sears and Kmart, what Hudson's Bay Company has done with Lord and Taylor, and honestly what they did with all the Toys R Us stores in 2018. This is the same playbook. And we've seen what happens with the playbook. And also too, I mean, Bloomingdale's has been part of Macy's for a very long time, and then you sell it off, it's really going to piss the customer off because then, you know, yeah. So I think they're going to fight this because, I mean, selling off Bloomingdale's is like, then what does Macy's really have left? Or is it just these activist investors that they just want money for themselves? They don't necessarily care about the whole thing. But I would think that I think Macy's will fight this off. They definitely want to hold on to Blue Mercury, and they should definitely hold on to Bloomingdale's. That Bloomingdale's is a pretty decent department store, And I think for Macy's to kind of lose Bloomingdale's would be a very unfortunate thing, all because of some active investment firm that just wants to try and squeeze as much money out of Macy's as possible. Hence why they want to make this whole presentation thing, and they want to say you could do this, you could do that, you could cut costs. Um, and I get it. I'm sure they did this because of what that employee did. That's why the investor activist is trying to do. But man, the shareholders, I don't know. These shareholders really love Eddie Lampert, but of course they don't want to say that on CNBC because, for reasons being, they don't want to necessarily. I don't know how to say it. They don't necessarily want to say Eddie Lampert's name because Eddie Lampert, I'm sure, has paid off a lot of these media networks to kind of stay in the shadows because, Eddie Lampert has a sick amount of money, as basically everybody knows. But boy, these activist investors really just, they really do look up to Eddie Lampert because they see what Eddie Lampert has done with Sears and Kmart. They've seen what the Toys R Us executive team has done with all the former Toys R Us spaces. And they also see what Hudson's Bay Company is doing to all the former Lord and Taylor stores. So at the end of the day, it's just really sad. I know eventually that Macy's will be a much smaller presence than it is now, obviously, and there is going to be a round of closures that are going to happen after the new year. That's just a given. But I think that Macy's will fight this back. I don't see this activist trying to sell off Bluemercury and Bloomingdale's. I mean, they have a lot of money. They're still doing particularly well. I just don't see this activist investor. I think this just activist investor just wants to make a headline because he knows he's going to get some sort of promotion if he tries to get the deal through. He really just cares about himself, or the shareholders themselves only care about themselves. They don't necessarily care about Macy's. Then they're presenting it this way because they want to sound like they care about the brand, but at the end of the day, all they care about is how much money can they squeeze out of Macy's and how much money can they try to squeeze out so they can go home with more profits. And then at the end of the day, the retail workers inside the Macy's store lose, and the people and the private equity firms win because, they're just, yeah, it's, look, at the end of the day, I don't personally think Macy's will do this. I think Macy's will 100% fight back, and I think they really should. Obviously, yes, I know they're going to close stores. I know many people ask me about them. I've gotten many, many comments and messages, and yes, there will be a closing list after the new year. That is a given. It will happen. But in terms of this whole activist investorism, these shareholders really need to go take a look at other struggling companies and stop obsessing over Macy's because Macy's is making bad headlines. If they want to go be shareholders and be active and use their activism, they really need to take a look at other organizations instead of obsessing over trying to do something which they know that they're not going to get into. Now, they could be a different conversation 10 or 20 years from now. But as of today, as it stands of today, as of me making this video today, these shareholders really need to take another look and look at other brands that might be, on the brink versus trying to have an unhealthy fixation and obsession with trying to make Macy's more profitable by selling off things like Bluemercury and Bloomingdale's, which is a huge part of Macy's business at the end of the day. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video about this particular thing. Was an important video for me to make because it talks about Macy's, and I wanted to definitely make it. So anyways, guys, thank you again for watching this video. Link to the article will be in the description below, and that will be it.